Did you see Disney Plus advertise that they got Kazam on Disney Plus?
I did not.
They do. They locked down the Kazam license.
They locked down the Kazam license. We can now... The next movie episode, Kazam.
Is there going to be an extended Kazam universe? I hope so.
I don't know. They were supposed to make that freaking Space Jam 2 movie, but that's...
Ugh.
Hey,
that movie's coming. What are you talking about? Don't make that noise. Hello, Internet. Gino, that Gino Greco here again with another episode of Deep Listens, and today it is time to discuss the NBA because it is opening night of the NBA. Hopefully this is posting on opening night of the NBA and not the day after or several days after the opening night of the NBA. But it's time to once again go balls deep into the NBA. We say that because basketball is played with a ball and there's a double entendre there. And it was ill-advised, and this is what our show is named now. And I can't take it back because we have brand equity.
It's canon.
It's canon. What's done cannot be undone.
This canon sucks.
It does suck. And those voices you hear first, that deep, deep baritone is Pete Busby, basketball expert.
What's up, everybody? I'm very excited to talk about hoops, especially NBA hoops. Quick fun fact for this one. It's actually more of a research recommendation than a fun fact. So I'm sure you guys have heard the phrase, can neither confirm nor deny at some point in your lives. Technically, it's called the Glomar response or the Glomar denial. It's from a wild Cold War CIA operation to pick up a submarine from the ocean floor. Howard Hughes was involved. He was part of the cover story. It was called Project Azorian. I highly encourage everyone to look it up. Azorian, Azorian. Take a look.
Wow.
Ooh.
That is some wild stuff. And I am also joined for this show by that other voice, Chris ZombiePie Redacted.
Hey, everyone. Glad that we're finally going to be able to watch proper basketball. As much as I enjoyed the preseason and the Big Three, It got pretty dire. I mean, I almost contemplated watching playoff baseball. That's how bad it got.
That's a nightmare.
But as Gino can attest, I also ended up scouring the internet for just some form of basketball, and I ended up watching the Taiwanese Basketball League.
Oh goodness.
Don't you remember, Gino, who I found randomly playing in a gymnasium in Taiwan?
No. Was it somehow Allen Iverson?
No. It was O.J. Mayo.
Oh, no.
O.J. Mayo, wow.
Yeah, he's playing in the Taiwanese Basketball League. Couldn't even cut it in China, so now he's in Taiwan.
His record got expunged from USC, right?
Correct.
There were no violations? Okay.
He was a meaningful player for Memphis during his time there. He was one of their top 10 players. Wow.
Yeah, so you can see him playing at your local high school, maybe community college court for the Taiwanese Basketball League.
He should have went Big Three. I mean, if Joe Johnson can get a contract, why not O.J. Mayo?
Too toxic.
Speaking of which, so let's do a quick Big Three check-in because we did not cover it because it was too sad for the most part. However, my spirit animal, the basketball player whose game I most respect because no one seemed to respect him all that much when he was in the NBA due to his egregious contracts, Joe Johnson lit the league on fire. Lit it on fire. I don't think I've told the story on this podcast of my Joe Johnson bobbleheads. Do either of you recall if I've done this on a podcast before?
I can't remember. I mean,
no one is stopping you. No one is stopping you.
So this is Joe Johnson in a nutshell. The Nets, when he was playing for the Brooklyn Nets, had a series of bobbleheads for the stars of the team, which at the time were Brooke Lopez, Thaddeus Young, and Joe Johnson. Brooke Lopez, because he is a Disney and Star Wars superfan, his bobblehead was him as a Jedi, coinciding with one of the new Star Wars movies. Thaddeus Young was a knight, because the Brooklyn, at that time, they were the Knights. They had a knight mascot. They are not the Knights, but they have a knight mascot, and they were leaning into it, so he got to be a knight. And Joe Johnson's bobblehead, his fantasy,
he was going to be a fantastical man, it's just him shooting a jump shot. It's a bobblehead of him looking like a basketball man. Because Joe Johnson, I don't know which path I choose more. That Joe Johnson wanted something else, but the machine it said, no, Joe, this is who you are. You're just a basketball man. Or that Joe Johnson is so confident that he is exactly who he always wanted to be. Why would he want to be anything else? He's living his fantasy.
His big three stats are preposterous. He has scored the most points. He had 40 more points than the next closest person. He was third in rebounds.
The games go to 50. They go to 50 and then they stop.
Yeah, and he averaged, what was that, 20-some-odd points a game? Half his team's points.
Yep.
He also had twice as many 4-pointers as anyone else in the league.
Yeah, he lit that league on fire. It turns out a all-star quality player who basically retired, or not even retired, he was just like out for a bit. He could just roll into the big three and just annihilate everyone, which is great because he should be on a playoff team this year. He's legitimately still useful.
He's on the Pistons.
Yeah, he's on the Pistons, but we'll talk about it later.
Hate to see
he ended
that.
up. I actually watched the finals for the big three. He scored 16 points of 25 in the first half, and he scored 28 of 50. And won and took the game-winning shot.
Of course he did. What are you going to do? Take the ball away from Joe Johnson when he's cooking? No. ISO Joe, baby. Well, that is our check-in with the big three. None of our teams won because we all doubted Joe Johnson, and shame on all of us. We deserve what we got. So, for our preseason preview, or I guess our season preview for the NBA, we're going to go over the NBA awards, and we're going to cover the teams that will make the playoffs, the MVP, Coach of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year, Most Improved Player, and then as a bonus, we will do our guess at the worst team, which is always fun. And just a reminder, for last year, I nailed the MVP. Pete, you nailed the Defensive Player of the Year, and ZP...
Woo.
I was the closest to Most Improved.
Yeah, you were... Yeah, we'll give you that.
Sure, fine, whatever.
I take the big risks. You don't get the dividends when you bet in Vegas unless you take some risks.
So before we get started, just a reminder, you can get in touch with the show. You can send all your basketball-related emails to deeplistens. At deeplistenspod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We've got comment sections and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. If I don't say it like that, my brain doesn't work.
Yeah, it's been a while since you forgot the email.
Yeah, I need to actually say it in sequence.
And Discord.
You can also support us on Patreon, patreon.com/deeplistens, and you can get access to our Discord, which is growing by the minute, which is very cool. People can also send in questions and comments there. People are constantly chatting. It's kind of a nightmare. There's some sort of roulette of marrying anime ladies and stuff.
I married a Pokemon.
You married a Pokemon. I married 2 Pikachus, and now I can breed them.
Also, the food channel is now full of delicious pictures of pizza and ranch.
Fuck. You do this to everywhere you go. Okay. So you can get in you can support the show. Please do so. It will get you access to the Discord we just spoke about. So without further ado, why don't we start with the NBA? So where do we want to start? What award do we want to start on?
Do we want to do playoffs or the awards?
Why don't we start with the easiest award? Rookie of the Year.
I think that's hard given current circumstances.
Okay, so we just got news today. Breaking news. Dun-dun-dun. Zion Williamson is out 6 to 8 weeks to start the season.
And I think that's too much time to where you can't do the Ben Simmons excuse of, well, the time that he did play is good enough to where he can still win the Rookie of the Year award.
I mean, he did have a historically great preseason, though.
Yeah, it was a joke.
Shaquille O'Neal level great.
Correct. But 6 to 8 weeks, man.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of time.
How many games is that actually? Do we have any idea?
Yeah, let me take a look. I'm just going to take a look at the schedule. So,
because presumably any vote for anyone other than Zion is basically a guess that this is going to linger somewhat.
That's my guess. And that's the reason why I did not pick Zion.
That's a not fun guess.
I know.
So
I don't want to make this guess, but I think that's what's going to happen. Is I think that Zion. This is now the second time he's messed up his leg in some sort.
True, and he blew up a shoe once. It could happen again.
So just a thing to point out here. So most NBA teams, they will play about 3 games a week.
Mm-hmm.
They're about sometimes more, sometimes less. So if we average that out over 6 weeks, it's 18 or 21 or 21, no, 24 games. So that's about a fourth of the season.
So, and I do admit that I'm being slightly hypocritical because my defensive player of the year, slight spoilers, is also going to be out a not insignificant amount of time. But I ended up going with Carson Edwards.
What?
Because I think that he's in the best possible. He's the guy on the Celtics that ended up getting like a ridiculous number of threes. He ended up getting 8 threes in one game. I was also thinking about Tyler Hero on the Miami Heat because
these are terrible picks.
Dion Waiters just got suspended, and so now he's going to get. Look, guys, I'm just trying to say that I think Zion's out for the entire season, and I literally don't know what to pick.
That's fine.
And you don't go to Ja or Michael Porter Jr.?
Yeah. I think that the problem with Ja is that his team isn't good enough, and that team is literally going to be lit on fire the entire year.
But he's really okay. I've written Carson Edwards in ink, so that's who you're stuck with.
Hey, I actually don't feel good, is because Boston has announced that he's going to be their designated 6th man. I think that's the perfect fit for a rookie. He's going to get a stable 20-plus minutes. Filling in wherever is appropriate, and he's going to be tapped to be their reliable pocket shooter on the wing. And I think that he has the opportunity to be just as good as the rest of this rookie career. Like I said, I also want to possibly pick Tyler Hero because now that Dion Waiters is probably in the out in Miami, he has the opportunity to pair up with Jimmy Butler and be an offensive specialist and grow from there.
Jimmy Butler will ruin him somehow. He'll find a way.
I don't know. Joe Johnson.
Pete, I have a question then. Do you still stick with Zion, or have you seen Ja Morant play and will go with him instead? Because Zion is out.
It's tough not to pick Zion. Like, just looking through the sports books, he's going off at minus 130 to win Rookie of the Year. I think I'm just going to have to go chalk and pick Zion. But if I didn't, it would 100% be Ja. He's obviously the right second choice.
Yeah, so I just to make sure that I wasn't going chalk, I watched some Ja Morant highlights. He was now the defense in preseason games is universally terrible. No one's really trying. But some of the moves he was doing off the dribble will 100% work on people who are trying.
Okay, so hear me out in terms of why I did my 2 picks. I wanted to pick rookies that were on the Eastern Conference because I feel like the rookies on the Western Conference are going to get obliterated unless you're Zion Williams.
They are going to get obliterated, but who cares? Like, Luka Doncic was getting obliterated last year, but he was so good it didn't matter.
Yeah, but that's a generational talent that we'll only see once every 5 or 6 years.
Why do we think that? Well, Zion might be a once every 20 years sort of player. So that's why I'm agreeing with Pete. I'm sticking with Zion.
You're sticking with Zion. Okay,
yeah,
I respect it. I want to pick that. I think, unfortunately, I think he's out far longer than what we're hearing.
I think 60 games. I think 60 games of Zion, or even 50 games of Zion, will outperform most everyone else to such a ludicrous degree that you can't give it to anyone else. Now, Ja Morant is close. He's very good. He's so damn quick. He's already making heady reads. He's got all sorts of dribble moves that are great, like a great hesitation dribble, a great inside-out move. He can finish with both hands already. He's a really complete point guard. He's exactly what you want, and getting to play with Jaren Jackson Jr. should be good. I don't think that Memphis is going to be any good as a team, but I think that it will showcase him, and he's going to have a very good season. The only thing keeping him from the Rookie of the Year is maybe the most dominant physical talent since Shaq.
Sure. So just out of curiosity, and this will be the last point, where were the two of you during the whole Donovan Mitchell versus Ben Simmons debate? Because I think that's basically where we are here.
I think I was on Ben Simmons' side on that one because he was just so good. What was the Joel Embiid or Malcolm Brogdon year? When JoJo played like 40 games and somehow lost it to Malcolm Brogdon, even though Joel Embiid was very clearly the best player, the best rookie. Like, that's one where I also think I would have given it to Joel instead of Brogdon.
Pete?
Yeah, I was on Ben Simmons just because, Donovan Mitchell's stats weren't that impressive. So, like, the argument really boiled down to, like, a contextual one that, like, you had to really sort of get on board with the Utah Jazz and his sort of not commandeering, that seems a little bit more negative, his basically propping up the offense. But it just didn't seem, he didn't stuff the box score the way Ben Simmons did.
All right. I don't feel good about this pick. I think that you guys are probably correct, and I really hope that I'm wrong. I'm betting against myself. I'm literally betting against myself.
If it makes you feel better, I am 100% certain that it will not be Carson Edwards.
Okay.
Maybe Tyler Herro. He's got cool odds, too. He's
I should have gone.
4,000.
Yeah. He's got a great name.
All right.
That counts for
What's
a lot.
the next category, Gino?
Next category. Why don't we jump over to Sixth Man of the Year?
This is easy.
All right, then. Go ahead.
It's Lou Williams.
It's always
I'm not
Lou Williams.
betting against Lou Williams. Last year we messed around for like 10, 15 minutes. I said Terry Rozier. We debated this and we debated that. I think maybe you could make a bet on Domantas Sabonis.
He's going to start, I think.
Oh, he is?
He might get traded, too. They were trying to trade him last week.
Yep.
Yikes. No, I think it's Lou Williams. Literally, he is in the best possible situation a six-man could be in, where you have a loaded 1 through 5. You're going to be tapped to play a solid number of minutes. You don't have to really super worry about your defense, and Lou Williams can do what Lou Williams does, which is score 20 to 30 points in a very limited amount of time.
All right, Pete, who do you have?
Yeah, I refuse to ever bet against Lou Williams again until he retires or, snaps a leg in half. I agree with everything ZP says. It hurts me to say that, but if it's about Lou Williams, I think I can compromise.
Those are compelling arguments. However, I am going to bet against Lou Williams again.
How dare you?
You fool. You fool.
Because I haven't learned my lesson. My rationale is that Lou Williams is now on a team with 2 legitimate all-stars playing his position, kind of. So there might not be minutes for him to close games in some occasions. And they will not rely on him to generate all of the offense because they have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard now. So I don't think he's going to get as much time with the ball, and that might depress his numbers somewhat.
Does that even matter? I mean, there were times where he only played 15 minutes and still scored 20 points or something like that. Like, he can score with a very limited amount of time.
He can, and, betting against Lou Williams is stupid. I'm a stupid man. I'm going to go with J.J. Redick again.
Is he going to be a six-man, or is he gonna end up starting again because of some sort of false bet on a rookie or young player?
Some sort of chicanery?
Yeah.
It's unclear. Right now, he is.
What team is he on again?
He is on the New Orleans Pelicans.
Oh, that's right.
Right now, he is behind Lonzo Ball, Drew Holiday, and Brandon Ingram. So he's almost certainly still a backup. But as a backup, I like him in the Lou Williams role of coming off the bench and just gunning like crazy. And I just think he's going to basically be their 5th starter when they actually care.
I think that I could actually flip some of what you said against Lou Williams on you. Like, if you are the coach of the New Orleans Pelicans, what is your motivation of giving J.J. Redick significant time when your main objective is to develop all of these young players?
Well, I think that they have kept a team. I think it's to make the playoffs because I think New Orleans is trying to make the playoffs.
I think that what's going to happen is that they very clearly will not make the playoffs, and they should just stick with playing the rookies.
I mean, the rookies are Zion Williamson. So as long as you play him, I don't know how you don't stay in playoff contention. And they just signed Derek Favors. Like they've got enough veterans on this team.
Oh shit, they've got Jahlil Okafor?
Yeah, they still have him.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would like to point out Alvin Gentry has been the coach of the Pelicans for the past 4 years, and I still had to look up who the coach of the Pelicans was.
Yeah. I don't know if he's actually a good coach. I think he's
I don't think he is.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of coaches, why don't we transition to Coach of the Year? Who do y'all like?
Do I always go first? I think it's going to be Mike.
Have to.
I think it's going to be Mike Malone. I mean, if it weren't for his late season slide last year, I think the Nuggets actually would have been the number 1 seed in the West. And they're returning with one of the most unguardable players in the NBA and a surrounding cast that I actually think fits Jokic even better, because I think Michael Porter Jr. is, if he can stay healthy, will be a very natural fit on that roster. And I think this is the year Jokic makes a solid contention for MVP. Although, spoilers, I don't think he's going to make it. I think Mike Malone is going to be the coach that sees the biggest surprise of the year with his team, and given how just absolutely stacked the Western Conference is.
Yeah, Mike Malone's a good pick. He was my second choice, actually. I had a tough time deciding between these two. But I went with Quinn Snyder of the Utah Jazz. Okay. I just think with the addition of Mike Conley and, maybe turning things around a little bit from last season, they can be even better than 50-some-odd wins they had. And I really think, Quinn with one N is going to get some respect that he deserves this time around.
That was what I would have gone with if you didn't just say that. So now I have to change your pick.
I win.
You monster. All right, so given that Quinn Snyder and Mike Malone are taken, I wouldn't have taken Malone, but I would have taken Snyder. We got to get someone who's going to overperform, someone who people were not necessarily expecting.
Can you combine Frank Vogel and Jason Kidd in one head coach for the whole season?
No, because I think that their expectations are too high right now. Similar to Doc Rivers, unless the Clippers really light the league on fire, I don't think that he'll get credit for it. So I don't think Budenholzer can do it again. Even if he just ran back last season, he wouldn't get credit. Mike D'Antoni,
they would need 70 wins.
If we're all about pissing off Pete, why don't you pick Brett Brown?
Because I don't think, again, if they just ran back,
good coach.
If they just ran back last season, they wouldn't give him the award. You need a team that has a good story.
I did spend a few moments contemplating Luke Walton, longer than I might.
Yeah, you did.
So my thought, actually similar thinking, but I'm gonna go with Steve Kerr.
Ah, fuck! What?
Yeah, that's a good choice.
Yeah, okay, sure.
So my rationale is, I think that the Warriors are going to still be a good team, still be a very good team, and as we saw in the playoffs against top defenses, Steph Curry and anyone is still an NBA, an all-world offense. They had a hard sledding against the Raptors in the NBA Finals. The Raptors field they were fielding at the time 5 elite defensive players, and Steph Curry was still scoring on them with 3 dudes who couldn't shoot and Draymond Green. So I don't think that they're necessarily going to be running out a much better team than they had in the finals, considering Kevin Durant is gone and Klay Thompson is going to be hurt to start the season. However, they're not going to be playing the Raptors every single game, and I think Steph plus Draymond is enough by itself to make the Warriors a high seed. And
don't sleep on D'Angelo, too.
Yeah, and D'Angelo and Klay will come back. And if they manage to get themselves into the 3 seed, maybe in the West. If they manage to do it, Steph Curry's really good. Steph Curry is really fucking good.
Yeah, but that team's not going to play any defense, so you have to have basically half your points come from Steph, then 20 points from D'Angelo, and then maybe Draymond can shoot.
There's this man named Draymond Green. He's an all-world defender, and I think
that's one person.
I'm not going to bet against them. I'm betting on Steve Kerr because I think if the Warriors manage
bet against the Warriors.
If the Warriors manage to get a high seed this year, which I think is in the realm of possibilities because Steph's that good, it would be a great narrative. My alternative was to pick the coach, Steve Clifford, and the Orlando Magic, but I refuse to bet on the fucking Orlando Magic.
I really like their team.
I like their team in theory too, but I fucking can't. I can't bet on the fucking Magic. All right. Next up, Defensive Player of the Year.
I'll jump in this one. I'll do the first one. So the Sixers defense is going to be hellacious this season. They're going to be monstrous. And my only concern is that it's going to be like the Warriors when like Steph Curry and Kevin Durant split votes. And in this case, I'm worried Al Horford might take a little bit too much shine. And I don't think he can win it. But I am going to pick Joel Embiid. I think he's going to anchor this squad. He's going to patrol the paint like an absolute behemoth that he is. And I think he can do enough to end up as the focal point of what I suspect might be the best defense in the NBA this year.
That's a good get. ZP.
Like I hinted earlier, I said that I went with a pick that slightly made my reservations about my Rookie of the Year pick slightly hypocritical because I went with Paul George. Now, I recognize that he's going to be out for basically all of October, but that's not that much missed. And I think that part of the reason why I want to pick Paul George is that Paul George is probably one of the best pick-and-roll defenders as well as perimeter defenders. And virtually every team in the West is going to rely on those two types of defenses. He is primed to be an elite all-time defender in a conference that he's going to be one of the few people other than Kawhi that truly is well known for his defense. Maybe Rudy Gobert, but Rudy Gobert guards the post rather than on the perimeter. So I think that Paul George, he's already a defensive mastermind, and I think that because everyone else isn't going to value defense, Paul George is just going to light people on fire in the West especially.
So my thinking here, I like the Paul George pick, except now he's on the same team as Kawhi Leonard, and I'm afraid that, like Pete said, just like having Kawhi and PG on the same team, it's going to be hard to attribute their defensive success to one of them when both of them have these reputations as stifling defensive players. So I think I'm going to go with a similar logic to Pete, except I'm going to pick a different big man. I'm going to go with the two-time reigning Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert, because I think by replacing their starting point guard, making Donovan Mitchell his natural position of a shooting guard, and getting Mike Conley, who is a lockdown defensive point guard. He's been very good for years. Their defense should get better, and they are already one of the best defenses in the league, and they have been the last 2 or 3 seasons. Basically, since Rudy Gobert has showed up, they've been a top 5 defense. So I just think they'll be slightly better, and Rudy will probably play more games than Joel.
Yeah, if Mike Conley can stay healthy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little gamble, but I think that Rudy will Iron Man it out, and he already has the reputation. He blocks a ton of shots. He does the things that defensive players of the year tend to do, and it almost always goes to a big man.
He's got great nicknames, too.
He does. Stifle Tower, the French Rejection. All good
I'd
stuff.
like to see him make an all-star game. I really would. I think he'd be a lot of fun to see.
Has he not made one?
No,
I guess the West is brutal.
Yeah,
well, you also have to remember that, the All-Star game doesn't value defense as much as offense, so he's not made an All-Star game.
Well, maybe if he improves a little bit, he'll be able to make an All-Star game. Speaking of improvement, what about the most improved player?
All right, I'll go first. Now, I want to just say that I'm going to say what I originally had written down here, and you're all going to laugh at me, but I think that it would have been an actual legitimate choice because you've already been laughing at me. I actually had Dwight Howard written down before I erased it.
What?
Hey.
What? Improvement from what? From what he's been? Like the last 3 seasons?
I think you have to remember, I put him down there just purely for the storyline, but I ended up convinced.
Vince Carter?
Okay. Hey, man, he was balling out. Did you see the preseason game that he played?
Yeah, he's still good. But
at 42.
Yeah, at 42. But I ended up picking a player. So my approach to the most improved always is I have to find a player who is good, has a good, basketball IQ, and is going to have the opportunity to play not only starting minutes, but is in a situation to where they can grow. So that's why I picked Jarrett Allen. Because I think that he's a solid complement to the pieces that are around him. He's going to be working with Kyrie. I think Kyrie is actually a better fit for the Nets than the Celtics because I feel like those pieces are a little bit more complementary because, unlike the Celtics, they're not running 4 small forwards and trying to claim 2 of them are guards. And Jarrett Allen is both – he's a little – the big problem that happened in the playoffs was he just got pushed around a little too much. But, he's only scoring 10 points. I think this is the season where he can boost that up. I think that he can definitely get better at rebounding the ball. I think he can get better at blocking the ball. I think, he's going to be the player, new kind of coat of paint. And then I feel like everyone on that team has made already a decent enough jump. Like, who would have guessed that Spencer Dinwiddie would have played a really good game of basketball, a season of basketball last year? So I think that Jarrett Allen is going to be my pick for most improved.
See, I'd like that pick more if the Nets didn't hire DeAndre Jordan to be professional best friend to Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. And since they hired him, I'm afraid that it's going to eat into the minutes that should be Jarrett Allen's. But we'll see. I like Jarrett Allen a lot, and I would love to see him improve a little more and get this award. Pete, who do you have?
So I'm pretty proud of this pick. This is going to be a deep cut, but I see the narrative building already, and I'm gonna have faith. I'm gonna go out on a limb here. So I'm gonna pick a player that's been getting steadily worse since his career started a scant 4 years ago. So the bar's low.
Oh,
I think he can clear it. I'm going to pick Marquise Chris.
I was going to say, is that Marquise Chris's music I hear?
That's Marquise Chris's music. I think this is going to be an argument for relegating the Suns, sending them to the G League.
Jesus Christ.
I think Marquise Chris turns it around.
I thought you were going to say Markelle Fultz. Oh, okay.
No,
sure.
I don't have that much faith.
Yeah, I like that pick. That was a pick I was exploring. I think he's definitely got room to grow. The Warriors desperately need an athletic forward to just eat up minutes, and he's going to get those minutes for at least a little while until he bungles them. I just couldn't go with that pick because I watched Marquise Chris play in person in the preseason.
That's the only problem. Is he might be terrible.
I've watched him play before. The problem is I've watched him play before, and it will always stand out. I went to a preseason game. It was a Rockets preseason game last year, and the Houston Rockets were playing, I want to say, the Indiana Pacers. And Marquise Chris was still on the team at this point. And Carmelo Anthony was still on the team at that point. And Marquise Chris was a roll man for, I believe, James Harden. He got the ball on the roll, and 2 times he decided he was going to try to dunk on Miles Turner. And both times Miles Turner was just in position, and instead of adjusting or making a shot fake or trying to adjust in midair, he just went directly at Miles Turner and tried to dunk over him. And Miles Turner rejected his shot.
We need.
He rejected his shot both times in exactly the same way. It was 2 consecutive possessions, and I just couldn't believe, the first time when he meets you at the apex, maybe the next time do a finger roll or pump fake and spin away. Do something, right? Euro step, do something. But Marquise Chris then was pulled from the game after getting blocked a second time. So that's a long way of saying I respect that choice, but I've wanted to believe in Marquise Chris now for 4 years, for almost half a decade. I can't anymore. And so I have to look to Orlando. And
Don't do it. You're not going to do it, are you?
No, I'm not.
Dude, are you? Oh, okay.
No. I'm not going to say Markelle Fultz. I'm not going to do it. Even though I think he will have a decent season, I think he will at least be an average NBA player. But I don't want to root for Markelle Fultz to be a very good NBA player. I think Jonathan Isaac is a player who's been forgotten.
Sure.
When I saw him as a rookie, he really, really jumped out and impressed me. He was a little banged up last season, and I think that held him back. And I think that this year Orlando has a lot of complementary pieces. They actually seem like they've got a competent team for the first time in a while, and Jonathan Isaac is a really talented player. I think him, Mo Bamba, Aaron Gordon, that's a monstrous front court. And I think that he can actually shoot. He's got good range. He's got a good IQ. I think a talented player coming off an injury, coming into his third season, that's the type of player who tends to win this award. So I'm betting on that. All right, so now we come to MVP.
So if you've looked at the statistics, Steph Curry is going to put up stupid numbers this year. His scoring rate without Kevin Durant or Klay Thompson the past however many years is absolutely preposterous. Nevertheless, he's not going to be my pick. I, like CP, have considered the Joker, Nikola Jokic, and I've been swayed. Yes. I'm picking him. I think the Nuggets are going to be real good this year. Like I said, I considered Malone for Coach of the Year, and I think this is where Jokic puts it even more together. Just tripped up on the reg.
Yep. All right.
The Joker. Excellent.
Yep. Pete and I agree about something. Just to further our case, I also feel like I got to pick Nikola Jokic because I think originally I had written down Anthony Davis, and I don't want to live in a world where the Lakers get everything happy and good and precious to me. So just to list off Jokic's playoff performance, even though I feel like I'm not going to say they underperformed, but I definitely think they could have gotten further into the Western Conference Finals. It's just, But Jokic ended up averaging 25 points per game, 13 rebounds per game, 8.5 assists per game, shot for 51% and almost 40 from threes. I think if he can take that playoff performance and make it more consistent, I think that's an incredibly solid case for MVP. And he still has the reputation of being one of the greatest passing big men we have ever seen in the history of the NBA. He's currently probably one of the best passers in the league right now. So I feel like he's definitely got a surrounding cast that complements him. Unlike Anthony Davis or LeBron, where I feel like, again, we have a lot of two-headed monsters, right? I think that's the biggest reason why I'm not going to go with LeBron. I'm not going to go with Anthony Davis. And I have slight reservations about Joel Embiid because I just don't think he's going to play the entire season. I'm not going to bet that he can play healthy. And, I know a lot of people, oddly enough, really are betting on James Harden, but I have zero confidence the Rockets can figure out how to make that roster work. So I'm going to go with the Joker as well.
That is fair. So I'm torn. I'm a man torn asunder by his heart and his head. I want to pick Giannis again because I was right last year, and he's only gotten better. However, usually we do not give this award to the same person 2 years in a row. However, if you're going to win it 2 times, it's usually twice in a row. It's not usually once and then after several years again. And Giannis is still kind of the undisputed best player on that team, and I think that the Bucks will probably be either the 1 or the 2 seed in the East when all is said and done. But, you know what I love more than watching Giannis cram on people? It's Steph Curry one-man show. I already was in on the Warriors for Steve Kerr. I'm going in on Steph again because I think that Steph, all by himself, is a top 10 NBA offense, maybe a top 5. Steph and a bunch of people who can barely dribble, I think might be a top 5 NBA offense. If he's going to be shooting more, he might break the scoring record. He's that good. And if he does anything resembling that, he could easily win the MVP. He's already won it twice. And the last time he won it in 2015, he was basically just a human torch for an entire season. and he's got even fewer people to defer to. So I'm betting on one last go-around for Steph Curry. I want to see what he does as the undisputed only option on the team. So
I don't disagree. I just feel like it's a very vanilla pick. I like vanilla, though. I'd like to see. I'd like to see it. I just think that I think Steph Curry's durability is a question mark, especially now that his bench is god awful. Oh my god. The Warriors are going to need to win at least 50 games to 55, and for Curry to build real MVP momentum, and that's kind of season's going to be tough when you're going to be starting D'Angelo Russell and Willie Cauley-Stein and Draymond Green, the only person capable of playing above average defense.
Most improved, potentially sixth player of the year.
Yeah, well, all right.
All right, so that's my pick. I'm going Steph Curry. I choose to believe in him until he proves otherwise. Anthony Davis was another strong consideration because I think he's more likely of the two between him and LeBron to get it, but I'm going to bet on the Warriors being better than being not dead. People are kind of burying them, and I don't think they're buried. I don't think they're dead. So, it's time to look at our playoff lineups. Who do we think is going to make the playoffs for each division? Let's start out with the Eastern Conference.
Okay.
God, it's so bad.
It's so bad.
So I think 1 through 3, maybe even actually 1 through 5 was okay for me, but then I got to like 6, 7, and 8, and my picks were like,
It's just toss coins. Who cares?
I mean, yeah, like I think we all would agree what the first and second teams are. I mean, you could probably
in some order.
them. Yeah, in some order. But then after that, I don't think 3 through 8. My list, I feel like you could swap them out. Like you could literally put my 3 on 8, and I wouldn't blame you. All right, who wants to start? Okay, so I'll just run down it. Okay, well, the team that I have for first in the Eastern Conference, I've got Milwaukee, followed by the 76ers, followed by the Celtics, followed by the Miami Heat, followed by the Brooklyn Nets, followed by, and I feel iffy about this, but I'm going to go with the Toronto Raptors, followed by the Pacers, and then followed by the Magic. I do not think that Detroit – I originally had Detroit slotted in the 8th slot, but I just don't want to give a team that's banking on a healthy Derrick Rose and Blake Griffin. Like, I can't. My body rejects it. I just can't.
So
and I feel like –
you had Bucks, 76ers, Celtics, then could you – what were 4? I'm just writing them down.
Celtics, Heat – Nets, Raptors, Pacers, Magic. And I feel like the only reason why I put the Celtics and the Heat above the rest of them is basically they have at least one All-Star and a bunch of other players around them that are complementary to their All-Star, and that makes them already ahead of the curve in terms of the Eastern Conference. I mean, you got a team like the Nets, which are good, but I just don't trust Kyrie to get that team past like maybe the second round. And then you got the Raptors, which have been absolutely depleted. I mean, I think that the contract they gave to Siakam should boost his confidence. But, I mean, I think a lot of people are sleeping on the fact that they lost Danny Green on top of Kawhi Leonard. And the Pacers are the team I want to be able to do that, to make the leap. But they're basically going to be a team that holds down the fort until Victor Oladipo comes back. And then the Magic, I mean, I like their team. I like their pieces. I just don't know if I have any confidence that they'll put it all together. I mean, you got DJ Augustine, Evan Fournier, Aaron Gordon, and Vucevic. Like, I feel good about that. And I think that Jonathan Isaac also has a lot of potential. Maybe even someone you could make a decent argument for most improved. But, God, that team is going to have to really rely on forced turnovers and dunks. And that's a style of basketball that's been out of date for at least 10 years.
And Markelle Fultz. All right, Pete.
Yeah.
What is your Eastern Conference picks?
So my top 2 follows EP. I went Bucks, 76ers in that order. After that, at 3, I have the Pacers. I think Depot comes back. I think he's going to be strong, and they have Brogdon now. I think a lot of people sort of slept on him, but he's good. The cat can ball. Number 4, I have the Nets. I feel like I should have penalized them more for Kyrie Irving, but I just think they're deep, they're good, and Chris LeVert's going to be back, Jared Allen, Spencer Dinwiddie. They got a squad. 5, I have the Celtics. I'm not really crazy about them there either. That's sort of a lot of faith in Gordon Hayward, but I think
their starting center is going to be Enes Kanter, so that's
not great. But I don't know, Brad Stevens, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. I had more faith in them than I had in the Raptors, who I put at 6. I do think Siakam's going to be making some moves this year, but I don't know how engaged Gasol's going to be. I mean, how much can you really put the ball in Fred VanVleet's hands?
All the time.
Yeah, I mean, they're good, but they don't have anybody who scares me, I'll put it that way. I put the Heat at 7. They incur the Jimmy Butler tax. Jimmy Butler might be my least favorite player in the entire NBA. So he goes at 7. And 8, I have the Pistons.
Ugh.
I know their health scares me.
Ugh.
I don't like rewarding a team that has maybe 4 fans every game. But I mean, if Blake can stay moderately healthy, he's the best player on any of the teams I might pick in that spot.
I'll give you credit there. When they were playing the Bucks, I felt like Blake with one leg was the second best player in that series, and good on him for improving his shooting significantly and finally getting away from dunks. But I mean, the problem is you've got D Rose, Blake, and so many other old, aged vets that are just
Joe
freaking,
Johnson.
Yeah, Joe Johnson.
Look, the conference is grim. It is a grim conference.
Luke Kennard is day to day. Jesus.
Gino, look, turn this around, man. Who
give us some positivity.
What do you got?
Give us some.
All right. Well, my number 1 and number 2 is the same as you both, the Bucks, then the 76ers. For number 3, I have the Raptors.
What?
Okay. That's
I think we were sleeping on them. I mean, they lost Kawhi Leonard, which is a big loss, and they lost Danny Green. However, they're returning everyone else. They've got Kyle Lowry, Kyle Lowry over everything. They've got Pascal Siakam. They still have Marc Gasol. They had a very deep team, and it's worth mentioning, like, Kawhi Leonard missed like a fourth of the season last year, and the Raptors were every bit as good in the regular season without him. They needed him in the playoffs, but it's the regular season that we're talking about right now. So I think that the internal development of guys like Siakam and Fred VanVleet will offset some of the aging of the core roster. And it's also worth mentioning that Marc Gasol was not there for most of the season. He showed up basically for the playoff run. So
I don't think he's going to be there spiritually for most of this season.
No, but I
think he's a husk of a man, yeah.
I think that him being there physically, he's still an excellent defensive player. I think you're getting more out of him than you were out of their other centers. I think he's better than Serge Ibaka, for example, and I think he'll nicely move Serge Ibaka into a more complementary role. I think that the team is just really cohesively built. Like, I trust Kyle Lowry a lot, and as long as they don't make a move to trade off some of these pieces, if they hold the core together, I think that there's just too many all-star level players who all know how to play basketball flat out. And if Pascal Siakam takes another step forward, they could replace the production in the regular season that they lost in the trade that sent away Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green. So I like them a lot. I think that their starting roster, their starting lineup, just looks better to me than the Celtics does, and some of the other teams in the East. So I trust them. And they also they shouldn't have a championship hangover the way that other teams do, because they tore up the roster. It's in some ways not the same team. Like, they don't have the same expectations.
Sure.
They get to be underdogs again, which is weird.
I just feel like
I just trust them. I trust Kyle Lowry. I trust Marc Gasol.
Sure.
I trust Pascal Siakam.
I see where you're coming from. I feel like I said, by my 3 through 8, you could literally swap them and I wouldn't feel bad about what your picks are. So what did you have after the Raptors?
So number 4, I have the Celtics. They just have a lot of talent, a lot of depth. Number 5, I have Orlando, the Orlando Magic.
That's high in my book.
5?
Because
they don't have a single star on that team, Gino.
I think Aaron Gordon might be
Who's
one.
their okay? Just tell me, who is their number one option in terms of scoring?
Terrence Ross, Evan Fournier.
Take this seriously, Gino. Who is their number one option in terms of who scores?
How good do you think Mo Bamba's going to be this year?
Nick Vucevic. It's Nick Vucevic, isn't it?
Okay. But he can only score in one of two ways.
Look, I don't love it, but like you said, everything after the first 3 or 4 teams in the East is a crapshoot, and it's going to come down to like 1 or 2 games one way or another.
I just don't understand why both of you are picking that Florida team over the Heat, because
I have Orlando, then the Heat.
At least you could say that Jimmy Butler.
Pick the Magic.
I know that Pete just hates Jimmy Butler, but I feel like Jimmy Butler as a number one option is still better than a majority of these teams that are here, other than the Celtics, and I guess I'm overvaluing the Celtics and the 76ers and the Bucks, because like I said, if you have at least one all-star, one perennial all-star plus a surrounding cast, I feel like you're ahead of the curve of every other team in the East.
Would you like to know what Basketball Reference projects Mo Bamba's stats for next season?
I bet it's not good.
Shoot.
It's 14.5 points, 10.5 rebounds, and 2.7 blocks a game.
Oh, wow, that's
Doesn't
really
that
good.
It seems way high.
He didn't have a great rookie season, so
yeah, but most big men don't.
All right.
So
All right.
If he
so
just
you
gets
had
a little better,
you had the Heat after.
Yeah, number
Orlando.
6 the Heat, number 7 the Pacers, and number 8 the Nets. And the Pacers being a little bit lower is because they lost Bojan Bogdanovic, and I'm not assuming that Victor Oladipo is just going to come back and be good immediately.
I still value Malcolm Brogdon as a capable shooter.
I do too, but I don't trust his feet.
I also think that Miles Turner will be able to figure this out. He'll start shooting. He's gonna try. He's gonna promise himself every game that I'm in, I'm gonna take at least 6 to 7 threes. And I'm just going to try. I'm not going to worry about if I make them or not. But I think that they can figure it out.
Yeah, I don't mind the Pacers pick. I do think you're a little low on the Nets, though.
Yeah. What's your thinking that Kyrie's not going to be able to take these pieces?
I mean, have you seen Kyrie Irving interact with people?
Yeah, he's pretty terrible from a general personal sense.
I like a lot of the Nets players. I'm afraid that they're going to actually just handicap themselves by playing DeAndre Jordan and just sacrificing
He is
development.
Subtraction by addition.
Yeah, I'm afraid that they're going to do things to keep Kyrie happy and keep KD happy that will make this season a little bit worse than it needs to be. I love Karis LeVert, though. I love Spencer Dinwiddie. I love that team a lot. I just think that I don't trust Kyrie as the top dog with a lot of unproven pieces around him, solid players that are not all-star level players. And I just kind of trust guys 1 through 10 on the teams above them a little bit more. I think the Heat are maybe just slightly deeper, but we'll see. Yeah. I think that a lot of the teams, like we said, after 1 and 2, it's kind of a crapshoot, but I feel good about the Raptors, and then all the rest of it, throwing darts at a board. I bet that every team that we mentioned from 4 till 10 in the East might end up 5 games apart.
I almost bit the bullet and picked the Atlanta Hawks for my number 8 seed, to be perfectly honest, because I want to see a young team like that make the playoffs. But yeah.
Let me interest you in the Orlando Magic. Okay. Now the Western Conference.
Hey, I picked the Orlando Magic for the 8 seed. Man. Now we go from a teeming dumpster fire, other than a few golden gems, to a literal fucking knife fight.
Oh man.
Yeah, the West is a bloodbath.
I just wanted
8 slots for 13 teams.
I want to just again point out The difference between the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. This is probably the worst it's ever been, and we need to get rid of conferences. This is the worst. I hate it. I hate it so much.
It's amazing. Even in the preseason, the Western Conference has just all these teams in the plus.
It's 1 through 16. I'm sick and tired.
Well, go ahead.
Okay.
Who do you have number one?
I know that a lot of people are probably going to pick the Clippers, but let me just point out that, one, Paul George is going to miss a not insignificant number of games, and I think that Kawhi's injury is going to force him to sit out a good number of games in the regular season. So I'm not going to pick the Clippers for the number one seed. I am instead going to double down in my investment that I made earlier. I'm going to say the 1 seed will be the Nuggets. Like I said, I'm already banking on Jokic making a leap. I'm already picking Michael Porter Jr. to be the team's X factor, and I think that they are the team that will be able to play the greatest number of games with their current starting roster as healthy as possible. I think they're going to have the fewest number of games of the teams that I have in my 1 through 5 spots, just taking breaks. And then, number 2, I have the Clippers. I think other than how healthy are George and Kawhi, I think the only big question I have with the Clippers is who is guarding the post, especially when they're going to go up against their fellow neighbors, the Lakers, where literally that team is designed to do nothing but pick and roll and pick and pop. But they have a lot of good defense on the perimeter. I just don't know if I trust what they have in the post.
How dare you disrespect JaVale McGee?
Yep. I'm going to have, so that's Nuggets 1, Clippers 2, then I have the Lakers 3. I would honestly peg the Lakers as underperforming this year. And that's part of the reason why I didn't go with Anthony Davis and LeBron James. I think, yes, they are a great pick and roll team. I think that I think what?
Just want to clarify, JaVale McGee is not on the Clippers. I mixed that up. It's okay. Zubac.
It's Zubac, yeah, who is also a defensive liability. I think that LeBron on point is going to create a lot of problems, but their bench is dire. And also, Kyle Kuzma is out. This team is literally cursed. You've got basically 2 coaches that have their knives out. I just don't feel good about the Lakers doing any better than the 3 seed. In fact, in my world, I would even pick the Jazz as being over them. But, what are you going to do? I've got Jazz as my number 4 pick. I think they're one of the most well-rounded teams. I think Mike Conley, if he can stay healthy with his advancing age, might even make a decent NBA second team this year. The fact that this man's only claim to fame is defensive second team is one of the most ridiculous things ever because he's just in a loaded position. And I also think that Bogdanovich was one of the sadly underreported free agency signings because it was just perfect. Last year, Gino and Pete may remember that I bet on the Spurs not making the playoffs, but I think that this year that they've gotten better. I think DeJounte Murray returning is a major plus. This roster was basically the same with LaMarcus Aldridge, DeMar DeRozan, and Lonnie Walker, and they were still very good, and they still made a decent case against the Nuggets. They took them to 7 games, so the fact that they have
the Spurs at 5?
Yeah, I have the Spurs at 5. I've got the Rockets as 7, and
why'd you skip 6?
Oh, I'm sorry. I've got the Trailblazers as 6, and I just want to say I fucking hate them picking up Hassan Whiteside. I think it's terrible. I think they shouldn't have done it. I understand that they're basically banking on another year of their 2-headed monster, but I think Hassan Whiteside is the absolute worst possible player you could pick to mesh with this team, and I would not be surprised if they kick him to the curb and possibly trade him for pennies. But even then, Dame Dollar, I think, also has not a great case to be the MVP this year, but he has a decent enough case where if he does better than what I have picked at the 6th seed, I think you could see him be at least talked about. I've got the Rockets as my 7th seed, and the only reason, and I know a lot of people have them high, I just don't see how Westbrook factors into Morey Ball. I watched them in the preseason, and they looked bad. They did not mesh well at all. It was a lot of, ISO dribbling from Harden and Westbrook and everyone else sitting at the wing, which is a terrible idea because Westbrook on the wing, he is not designed to make that three. He's just not designed it. He's convinced himself that he can make it. He's convinced himself that he should take it, yet he's the absolute worst player to take that shot. And then the 8th seed, I have the Warriors. I know that sounds weird. I'm not disrespecting the Warriors. I just want to point out, Willie Cauley-Stein, 1, is going to miss all of October and possibly more. 2, I think their bench is horrible. I think their bench is absolutely is going to get torched. 3, I think their defense, they're going to be near the bottom in terms of league defense. And then 4, I personally don't think D'Angelo Russell is as great a fit as everyone else is making him out to seem. I think that the Warriors will still make the playoffs. I understand that Stephen Curry is very good at basketball. Draymond Green is very good at defense. But you're going to, considering how many points, even with Draymond Green, that team is going to give up, you basically need to just rely on outscoring. And I don't know if Steph Curry has it. And I don't know if D'Angelo Russell is the player to help them make up the difference. So that's my pick.
There you go. Pete, who do you have?
So I also have the Nuggets number 1. Like I said, big on Mike Malone. I think Jokic is going to have a real big year. Picked him for MVP. So I think they run it back. And I think they'll care, which is big during the regular season. That's also why I have the Jazz at number 2. Very bullish on the Jazz this year. But I think, again, they're going to care. They're going to be good. And their roster is pretty solid 1 through 5, at least for starters. I have the Clippers at 3. Mostly because I don't think they really give a shit about the regular season. They have the talent to coast, and I think they're going to coast. 4, I have the Blazers. I also am very worried about Hassan Whiteside. I don't know really what the Blazers see in him, really. Hopefully he doesn't take too many minutes, honestly. But I think with Dame and CJ, they can keep things going pretty well. I have the
Nurkic hurt.
Yeah. I mean, well, once Nurkic gets back, so hopefully they punt Hassan Whiteside into the sun. I have the Lakers at 5. I agree with ZP. I think they're going to underperform this year pretty dramatically, to be honest with you. They're paper thin. Their coaching situation is a complete disaster. Like when Tyronn Lue would have been a solid upgrade, you're in grim straits.
And I got to point out, losing Kyle Kuzma is going to hurt.
That is. I mean, with how thin they are already, they can't afford it. I have the Warriors at 6. I think Steph Curry's just going to light the court on fire a lot of nights, and I think that's going to be enough to carry them pretty far. And, for all of D'Angelo Russell's shortcomings in the league thus far, I'm pretty high on him, actually. I have the Rockets at 7. I'm already sort of regretting not flipping them with my 8th team, but I'm going to keep them at 7. I haven't had faith in Westbrook since, 2011.
His MVP season was actually a decent case.
Yeah, Harden deserved it more. So we don't need to relitigate that. So,
yeah, sure.
I have no faith in Westbrook, but Harden's just so good. Clint Capella works in the regular season, even if you can scheme him out in the playoffs. The only thing that does worry me is D'Antoni's a lame duck coach, and he might not make it through the regular season, to be honest with you. And number 8, I have the Spurs. They're good with Murray back. I agree they're also better than they were last year, and you really can't bet against them so long as Pop's there and he has, DeRozan and Aldridge to work with. Like I said, in hindsight, I might have flipped the Rockets and Spurs, but I'm going to stick with what I have written down.
Nice. I think that makes sense. This is such a fucking bloodbath.
I'm telling you, I had real trouble with that 6, 7, 8.
I wanted to be a fanboy and pick the Kings on 8, but I just couldn't because I realized that.
I thought about them for 8, but I couldn't leapfrog the Spurs like that.
Nah, I don't think it's possible. This sucks. I hate conferences.
I hate the conferences. I'm sorry that it makes us do this. Here's my take on it. Man, it's just so... It's so rough because 13 teams would easily make the playoffs in the East.
So over under, what do you think the odds are that like the 7th or 8th seed of the Eastern Conference has a losing record? I think it's pretty decent.
I picked the Pistons, so yeah, it could definitely happen.
Yeah, I think at least one of the teams in the Eastern playoff.
This sucks.
Will have a losing record.
This sucks so much.
So I want to start out by saying I would have had the Pelicans in the 8th seed if Zion Williamson's news did not just come out.
Fair.
If he was playing, I would have put them at the 8th seed pretty easily. I really, they have a lot of solid players, even some all-star level players, and Zion I expect to perform at an all-star level.
Don't sleep on Drew.
Rookie. Yeah, and Derek Favors has always been a little bit mismatched because he's been forced to play with Rudy Gobert. So I think that this will free him up. But unfortunately, 20 games without who I think will be their best player immediately upon stepping on the court is going to be tough to keep up in a very loaded conference. So my number one, I have the Rockets. Reason why?
Okay.
The reason why is that the Rockets have basically been the number 1, number 2, or number 3 seed for the last several seasons. And I don't think that Russell Westbrook is necessarily a gigantic upgrade over Chris Paul, even at this stage of their careers. However, I do not think he is a big minus either. And giving them demerits for Chris Paul's absence or for not changing their roster more, I don't understand, because I think that they're going to be every bit as much of a load to deal with as they have been the last several seasons, and they've been regular season monsters. I trust them to basically have a bunch of consistency. There's very little roster turnover there other than Westbrook. And yes, I understand that there's only one ball, and James Harden and Russell Westbrook both are really ball dominant. But I think that if Russ can just catch and go off of James Harden ISOs, that will help his career a ton. He's still physically dominant, even with him losing a step a little bit. And I just trust them to be able to hit the ground running in a way that some of these other teams that have just been put together might not. And they are coming in healthy for the most part, except for missing Gerald Green. So I'm trusting them. Number 2, I have the Nuggets. So same reasons you both gave. I really like the Nuggets. They play at altitude. They are very deep. Jokic is great. I think that their roster is super deep. I trust them a lot to get free wins. Same. Number 3, Utah Jazz, same thing. They play at altitude. They're a very deep team. They're very skilled. They have a lot of consistency in the roster. I expect that they'll get a bunch of wins while these other teams are figuring stuff out. Number 4, I bet on Steph Curry and I bet on Steve Kerr, so I'm going to go Warriors.
Wow.
So I am betting on them being much better than people think. I know that their roster is paper thin, but again, they have consistency. They have a number of good players. Klay Thompson will be coming back, and I think that Steph Curry's that good. I think that you can roll it out, and even in a loaded conference, him plus Draymond Green is still one of the most unguardable combinations in the league, even if Steph is 90% of the offense in that combination. Draymond's that smart, and I will roll with them until they prove that they can't do it anymore. So we'll see. Number 5, I have the Clippers. Number 6, I have the Lakers. Number 7, the Spurs. And number 8, ZP, your Kings.
Yeah! I love it. Wait, you're not picking the Trailblazers to make the playoffs?
No, I think that it's a bloodbath, and I'd rather choose a team that I'm a little bit more excited by. I think that losing Al-Farouq Aminu and Mo Harkless is actually a pretty big loss for them. I don't love the Hassan Whiteside fit, and I think that their defense really is going to suffer a lot. And the Kings are just a really deep team. I think that De'Aaron Fox is a legit all-star candidate this year. I think that they've got a very solid roster around him. From spots 2 through 10.
Rashawn Holmes, of all people, looks really good, like a legitimate second wing for the center position. Bielitsa still serves a very important role in spacing out the floor. Harrison Barnes looked decent. He was one of the few good players on the FIBA Cup for the United States, and we finally got Buddy Hield to take his money.
Yeah, so I just like them to be kind of in the New Orleans Pelicans young team that people aren't necessarily ready for, that I think will step up. And I'm sorry to disrespect Dame Dollar this much, He will probably make me regret it.
Yeah, he's going to put it on the bulletin board.
Yeah, he's gonna sign out on a diss track to Gino that Pinguino Grieco.
I would like to make one final point about the Rockets. They did also lose probably their two most important assistant coaches. Not the most important thing that happened to them, but definitely a factor.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, so now our final category, worst team.
Oh, God.
This is always a weird one because last year we predicted the Atlanta Hawks, Pete, and we ended up getting burned on it.
I know, but I'm happy we got burned.
I predicted the Phoenix Suns, and I was close, but I forgot that the Knicks can never be trusted.
I think the Knicks actually got better this year. Can you really can you really call this depth chart bad? R.J. Barrett, Marcus Morris, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson. I don't like Dennis Smith Jr., but I do think a lot of Alfred Payton. Kevin Knox. Oh shit! They signed Bobby Portis. What?
They are an island of misfit toys every year. It's amazing. They keep signing.
Are you actually going to
pick
out? See, here's the problem I have. I'm actually going to go with the Phoenix Suns because I feel like literally every team in the Western Conference got better, and they have, despite the fact that they have a lot of pieces that I like, despite the fact that I think that, I like Dario Saric, I like DeAndre Ayton. I don't like them with Ricky Rubio, and I definitely don't like them with Kelly Oubre. I don't like the fact that they gave Ricky Rubio a bunch of money. I really don't like the fact that they gave up TJ Warren for a bunch of nothing, cash considerations. And also, literally every team in the Western Conference is capable of beating them. Just think about that. John Morant's Memphis Grizzlies will feast on them. The Minnesota Timberwolves with fucking Andrew Wiggins will feast on them. So I feel better about picking a team from the Western Conference versus the Eastern Conference where, I personally think that the worst team is the Charlotte Hornets, but everyone else in the Eastern Conference is so bad they are going to sneak a couple wins here and there. So I'm going to go with the Phoenix Suns because Sarver can pound sand.
Pete.
That's a good pick. I think it's really a three-team race as far as I'm concerned between the Phoenix Suns, the Charlotte Hornets, and the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Fuck.
I know. It is tempting. It's tempting to pick the Suns of the Western Conference, but I am going to pick the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think they tear it down to the studs this year, and I think they're generally going to be worse, more dysfunctional than the Hornets, who would have been my second pick.
I feel bad for Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson.
Kevin Love's going to be gone inside 2 weeks. Yeah. He'll either be gone or shut down.
So I would have gone with the Cavaliers had I picked first, but since I picked second, I'll go with the Charlotte Hornets because at the very least, Kevin Love is an all-star level player. The Charlotte Hornets cannot even argue that they have one.
Bismack Biyombo, baby, on the come up.
Their best player is probably P.J. Washington, and he's their third or fourth. God damn. I don't understand.
They're bad.
I don't understand.
They took Kemba Walker, and they turned him into
Terry Rozier. Do you have his contract up? Because I think it might be one of the most...
He's making $19,894,737.
I want to also point out that Nicholas Batum is their second highest paid player, and he's not even going to start.
He's their highest paid player at $25 million.
I'm not convinced Dean Wade on the Cleveland Cavaliers is a real NBA player. I think that's a Google error that came up when I searched the roster.
I don't think that Jalen McDaniels is a real man, and he is on the Charlotte Hornets roster.
Bismack Biyombo.
It's never good when the picture on the depth chart is just a blank generic image.
They've got Willie Gomez.
Player.
Yo, let me tell you something. For Jalen McDaniels, when I hover over his picture, it just says headshot fallback image.
That's all you need to know about Charlotte's season.
I don't understand how a team can be this poorly run. I mean, if you're not going to pay Kemba Walker his money, and fine, maybe there's an argument that Kemba Walker doesn't deserve max money, then You went into this season knowing that he was possibly going to leave. Why not draft a replacement? Draft someone for his position. Or, I don't know, trade him so as that you get something more than an overpaid Terry Rozier. I just think that Mick Kupchak is one of the worst general managers I've ever seen, and I knew that when he was running the Lakers.
I'm just trying to find other teams that have the roster fallback image as one of their players, and I'm looking at bad teams, and they have pictures. They get pictures.
Although I will say, I don't know if anyone won. Did really the Celtics win that trade? Did the Celtics really win the whole Kemba Walker thing? I don't know.
Getting rid of Scary Terry and replacing him with Kemba Walker for almost the same money.
But I feel bad for their young core, which they've been promised the keys to the city for the 4th year in a row, and now they're going to have another ball-dominant guard.
I hope every bad thing in the world happens to the Celtics.
I don't like the Celtics either, so meh.
Yeah, I would rather have Kemba for $32 million than.
I feel better about it, but I mean, it was just 8 years. It was really painful to see Kemba Walker play in Charlotte and just go with bad teammate after bad teammate, especially Michael Gilchrist, because Jesus Christ.
I haven't found another team with a blank picture other than the Charlotte Hornets, and they had 2. This is incredible. All right, I feel great about my pick. All right, so I think that's it for our NBA preview podcast. We are looking forward to the NBA season. It's going to be a good time. The league has not been this even in terms of talent distribution.
Yeah, this is probably way harder than last year.
This is much harder than last year.
Right. It's good.
I felt really solid about my picks last year. This one, I feel like I'm throwing a lot more darts, but we'll see. So thank you, ZP.
Sure. Everybody, remember to follow Carson Edwards, Rookie of the Year candidate.
Thank you, Pete.
Always a pleasure to talk hoops. I can't wait to hear from Marquise Chris Nation during the year.
And thank you, listeners. Remember, if you want to get in touch with the show, you can do so at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We've got our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. And you can also support us, patreon.com/deeplistens, to get access to our Discord. Until next time, peace!